So today, I was drawing. I sat down and I wanted to draw some trees. And a little dude sitting in the shade under a tree. Living in LA, I think a lot about forests and trees because it's really hot here, and every time I go outside, all I want to do is just sit in the shade and feel cool. And it's almost never. It's usually way too sunny for that. And yeah, I go outside for like an hour in the sun, and I have to like come home and take a nap. And yeah, the sun really gets to me here. So I spend a lot of time thinking about forests and cooler climates. And luckily for me, I love drawing forests. So trees are one of my favorite things to draw, right up there with creatures. And one of the reasons is kind of if you're drawing a tree, a tree is a natural thing, and it kind of grows depending on, like the environment and all the things that grow around it, and all the wind and the weather, and kind of like everything around it affects it. So they're kind of like, you can't really make a mistake drawing a tree. You can just kind of look at, if something looks off or weird, you can just say, hey, look, this is just how the tree grew. Maybe that year there was a lightning storm and it hit it in a certain way and it caused it to grow differently. Or maybe the wind, there was like hurricane season and it caused it to bend a certain way. Or, like trees just kind of grow how they grow. Like there's a plant, like say you take an acorn or a pine cone or something like that with a tree seed in it. Like there's a program in there to grow a tree, but you never know what you're going to get when you plant it in the ground, because you can't control everything in every environment. Like some trees are malnutrition, some trees are malnutritious. I'm going to make a word, malnutritious. Yeah, so anyway, there's kind of, I don't know, I kind of look at drawing to get back to why I like trees, and you can't make a mistake drawing a tree. And I kind of like looking at drawing as being like, like you've got to be forgiving with yourself about drawing, I guess it's okay to look for perfection and try to aim for perfection, but you're never going to reach that, no matter, like how hard you try. There's always going to be things wrong with it. So instead of like focusing on the things that are wrong, I kind of like have designed the way I draw around creating a scenario where, like it's okay for things to be off or different, or like this rock I'm drawing right now, I don't like the way it turned out. Not the one with the face, but the one in front of it is too blumpy and blumpy, and looks more like chewing gum to me than a piece of rock. But it's not a mistake, it's just a rock that looks blumpy. If my drawing, this drawing, I might draw a little red underdrawing in the first place, but I'm not really, when I sit down to draw these things, I don't have more than just an idea like, oh, I'm gonna draw a forest today, and then whatever happens, and this was a good drawing day, so I really like the way it turned out. But I often think that the difference between, like, if you look at, like, say you look at my drawing and you're like, oh, I'm not drawing as well as that. Or if I look at somebody who makes me feel, how could they do that? How can they draw like that? It's amazing. They make it look so effortless. I really think that the only difference between a drawing that you're doing and a drawing between somebody you really admire, that just means they've spent more time focusing on that specific subject and mastering the skills necessary to get it across. So it's kind of like the more mastery an artist has over something, the more time they've spent learning every nuance and aspect of it. What I'm trying to say is the difference between like a beginner and a master is just time. Do you know what I mean? And that applies to everything, cooking and walking and yoga and I don't know, washing windows. Kind of everything kind of falls under this like time plus study plus focus, and there's equals eventually mastery of something. And then there's always like room to improve, and there's always new things to explore. And like kind of like I found with drawing, like the more I do something, it's like it's like the old onion, that old drawing onion story where like you draw with an onion and the peel kind of, there's a lot of onion to draw with. So no, obviously I'm trying to say there's many different layers. So like the deeper you get with something and the more you're like, with me, I've been drawing for over 40 years now, and I think every time I start to think, oh, I'm really starting to get it, and then I look back a few years later, I'm like, oh, I was just kind of scraping the surface, like I've managed by this point to dig deeper. And I don't think that's ever going to change. I mean, the only thing that would change that would be the desire to dig deeper and to keep exploring and improving and moving. And like now, like I feel like I'm at a point with my drawing skills where I'm like, this is good enough. Like I like where I'm at, and I'm like, I'm gonna hang out here for a little while, and at some point I'll probably get sick of drawing the way I draw and try something new. But it's kind of like I go into it knowing that there's more stuff to explore and more plums to depth, or depths to plumb, and it just kind of, I don't know, it's really fascinating how, like, and I think like it's with anything, like anything you want to focus on, you can just keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper. Like even like you look at stuff like conspiracy theories, like JFK, or even Sasquatch, which this guy under the tree is a little Sasquatch, which is, Sasquatches are a topic I love, and I don't personally, I'd be all for it if they discovered some Sasquatches and can prove it, but I'm also, a little hesitant to believe that we haven't discovered any yet, but there's lots of people, like, that's kind of like no matter how something is explained or unexplained, it's like people find new ways to like believe in something. Like one of the newer Sasquatch theories is that the reason no one's caught a Sasquatch is because they're interdimensional Sasquatches, and so anytime you see one, they can just kind of jet out of there easily because they can travel from dimension to dimension. And I actually had a animated series pitch I was working on based on that concept, and I don't know, it didn't go anywhere, but I want to do something with it eventually. Maybe I'll turn it into a comic book or something. But Sasquatches are something that I like drawing them a lot too, and I guess this guy right here is my version of a Sasquatch, which is not the most traditional Sasquatch, hanging out in trees. Yeah, definitely like one of those characters that I end up drawing over and over and over again. So when that happens in a sketchbook and you have a character that keeps coming back, it's like kind of like, for me, I'm like, oh, there's something to this character. Why do we keep drawing them? And yeah, I just it's like eventually I got to do something with this person because it's like I know them. The more you draw the character, the more you get to know them and their quirks, and it's like hanging out with somebody. So your mind starts to fill in the blanks and stuff. Anyway, this Sasquatch seems like he'd be pretty mellow. He's got he's probably been sitting there for a while because a bird put a nest on his head with some eggs in it. Anyway, lessons for today. Rocks can be blurpy. Sasquatch might or might not exist. And yeah, just be more forgiving with yourself with your artwork. And just in general, life in general, do that too.